where do we start? Of course, we start the yearning of man for a connection with the unseen is always there. If it's completely eliminated, then the last man or the last person will be that person who has the ability to connect with the cosmic order. So, if that yearning exists, if that sense of quiet dissatisfaction always rings in a person's soul, then hope is certainly there, and it is something that one can build on, and one can work on in order to create the conditions for the recapture of this spiritualized entity which is able to open to the unseen. This one of the side effects also of the loss of an instinctive sense of the unseen is that the certainty that human beings had in their position in the order of the universe is replaced by doubt, is replaced by not so much non-belief or infidelity, but is replaced by a sense of uncertainty and a constant quest to regain the higher grounds, as it were, to regain the former condition. It becomes, in some ways, a lifelong quest of serial experimentation to try to regain the sense of certainty with which human beings before instinctively possessed. And I'm sure all of us, being born and raised in environments where the outer is so prevalent over the inner conditions of a human being, that we feel that at the edges there is this loss of instinctive awareness and instinctive certainty, which requires us to experiment in order to find the right pathway back. And some of us seek it in a form of authoritative structures where it's a top-down approach, where we are told that if you do a certain set of actions, if you do a certain set of rituals, if you possess certain beliefs and certain ideas, that certainty will come back to you again. Others try to rationalize it, to see it in the form of constantly intellectualizing the argument and trying to use their rational faculties to somehow approach the gateway to the unseen. Others go back to tradition, to see it in the form of orthodoxies, that if we abide by certain orthodoxies that have been tried and tested through time, that somehow we will regain that powerful sense of connectedness. But I think in the end it is to do with experience. If we do not experientially regain this sense of the transcendent, so that it is embedded in our persona, as it were, it's embedded in our nature, it will not have the same definitive permanence that we would need in order to recapture the sense of the transcendent. And to a large extent, all the various pursuits that are taken in order to achieve the circumstances by which the spiritual becomes re-embedded in a human being don't lead to the final definitive conclusion that an experience would. If you experience something, experience it both physically, mentally and spiritually, it will tend to have a far higher impact and far higher degree of prevalence than if you try to intellectualize it, or if you simply follow authority, or if you follow orthodoxies or tradition. So experience and having this opening, which you feel overwhelms you, is, I think, a precondition, one of the preconditions of regaining the sense of the spiritual. In my case, there are certain access points, which are left by the grace of the Creator, in order for us to have a manual, as it were, that would allow us to plug in or to reconnect whenever we are at a state of loss or at a state of doubt. And all the questions that I earlier posed as to why is this significant? How do we identify it? How do we try to reconnect with it? How do we regain it? Is answered by these twin approaches. And I think they are necessary to each other. They prop each other. One of them is to experientially recognize the presence and the prevalence of the unseen in our daily life. And this will have to come through a series of practices and a series of exercises, spiritual exercises. And the other one is to look at the eternal keys that have been left behind for us to use to open the doors. And one of the keys for those of us in a certain tradition, of course, are the scriptural works. And in the case of Islam, obviously, they are the Noble Quran, which, again, looking at it from the perspective of a person who is immersed in the oneness of existence, begins to unlock its secrets, begins to unlock its secrets as an ocean of enormous insights that encompasses the entirety of being. Now, this might be a mouthful for a person who reads it in translation, or it might be a mouthful for a person who does not necessarily immerse oneself into that. But it can have that effect if one is appropriately oriented and approaches it with a degree of courtesy, so that you don't look at it as a science textbook, you don't look at it as a rational document, as a document that appeals to reason. It does, but more. It is a text that has in it the keys to unlocking and the gateway, as it were, to the unseen. And if you do not start, if your starting premises is not a belief in the unseen, you might not have the certainty, but a belief in it, then it will not reverberate, and it will not have the desired effects. And within this immense body of wisdom, there are areas in it that are highlighted given your circumstances and your conditions. And one of the areas that I would like to explore is, what does the Quran say about the recovery of the transcendent? What does it say about human beings, their nature, and what they have to cultivate and what they have to nurture in order to regain that quality?